Welcome to the David Wells Experience, featuring David Wells, who's an advocate against bullying. Now, through his nonprofit organization, which is called Chocolate Jazz Foundation, it helps him to bring awareness against bullying. David Wells is a nationally known smooth jazz artist, and the David Wells Experience is a weekly show that is a motivational, informative, and inspirational program. The show consists of interviews with people of all trades that can provide insight and guidance to those who have been bullied, like making right choices, never giving up, desire, discipline, determination, and many more tools to use in the fight against bullying. Now, this episode is brought to you by Legion Jiu Jitsu, located in Nashville, Hendersonville, and Murfreesboro, Tennessee. They have classes for kids starting at age 3, teaching neutralization and control with their bully-proof curriculum. If you have any questions, feel free to call 615-203-5004. Or you can go to the website at legionjj.com. And be sure to mention David Wells Experience, and you'll receive 1 week of free classes per family. Now, this episode is also brought to you by Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Woodmont Realty. If you own a home in Middle Tennessee, then you'll know exactly what David's talking about. The housing market is crazy. It's a seller's market. He asks you a question. If the price is right and the timing is right, would you sell? As a realtor of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Woodmont Realty, if you want David to email you an accurate comparative market analysis on your home, text him at 304-494-2238. So if you're ready to get started with the David Wells Experience, here's your host, David Wells.
I want to thank everyone for tuning in to another episode of the David Wells Experience in Nashville. My name is David, and today we have a co-owner and one of the head instructors at Legion Jiu Jitsu that has actually 3 locations throughout Nashville. And at this time, I want to introduce Logan Nash. Logan, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Dave. I'm really excited to join you and talk about what we do.
Hey, before we get started, if you can just give us a little background, where you were born and raised, and how you actually got into Jiu Jitsu.
Sure. So I was born right here where I live and run a gym in Hendersonville, Tennessee. I did traditional martial arts when I was younger. I got into really heavily got into MMA and specifically jiu-jitsu when I was 16 years old, and I started training when I was 16. That was back in 2008, I believe. And I've been training pretty much full-time ever since then. I started teaching about 4 years after that, in about 2011, 2012. And then I took over as head coach here at Legion Jiu Jitsu about, I think, a little over 2 years ago now. And I've been the head coach and operator since. Wow.
First of all, before we go any further, I want you guys to know how much I appreciate how Legion is actually partnering with us and helping us fight against bullying in the public schools. So thanks so much for that.
Yeah, of course, man. It's something that's we're super passionate about here. This is truly why we do what we do, to change and empower and impact other people's lives, and hopefully spread throughout our community as much as we can.
Right. Well, one of the, of course, I'm not for sure if you even know this, but one of the main reasons that I moved to Nashville, I think I did tell you because we had lunch, a few weeks ago. For those who don't know, the new listeners, is it was because the COVID, and it actually shut down everything I did. And before the COVID came around, I was traveling, performing full time. I was actually in the middle of putting my 16th CD together, which was probably the last one I'll do. But also, I was actually doing like maybe 4 school assemblies a week fighting against bullying. And so real quick, what I want you to do is that if you can talk me through your experience and the Academy's experience in March, a few days before everything started closing down. What led up to it, and what decisions, who got together and made all these decisions, and how did you guys keep the bills paid, I guess?
Yeah, sure. Well, it was interesting. So I just now opened my new location in Hendersonville.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you, man. This has been planned for at least 2 years. And we were planning on opening this back in May originally, before all this COVID stuff. It was really interesting. We actually had a very big fight card on March 7th. And so we were preparing really hard for that, and we were really just so focused on that we weren't even thinking about the COVID stuff until literally after that weekend. The very next weekend, that's when everything was shut down. Mm-hmm. So we had a big MMA card that we had a bunch of fighters on the very last weekend that everything was open.
Wow.
It was pretty interesting. What's that?
Let me ask you this. Sure. After you guys realized, okay, we have to shut down, what decisions were made to keep the cash flow coming as a business owner and, paying the bills, paying the rent? I know this when I was in West Virginia, Ohio. A lot of people, they stopped paying it. They're thinking, well, I don't need to pay my monthly dues because I'm not even training. So did it affect you guys financially?
Yeah, of course. So it's really quite interesting. The conundrum that I'm sure all businesses face, but especially a business such as a martial arts gym like ourselves have faced.
Right.
Sean is really big about adaptation, and if you don't adapt, you die, and that is especially true with this year.
Sure.
We shut down mid-March. We immediately began doing online classes via Zoom. So we never even took a week off. We immediately began doing online classes via Zoom. We were uploading technique videos and mindset videos every single day, just to try to keep value to our members. Then we actually started also doing live classes on our student page. And then we started doing, we actually started to develop an online curriculum for our students to, again, develop just in case whether something like this happens again or there's a second wave or whatever. Right. We want to be able to have an online presence just in case. So it's really about adapting, number one, on our side. That's all we could do is adapt the best we can, stay positive, and keep doing what we can. But we were also very, very blessed to have such great members. We obviously gave all the members options to freeze, cancel, anything like that.
Wow,
a lot of members kept their memberships active, just truly just to be kind, to keep our gym open and to have a gym to come back to after all this lockdown. So I would say we lost about 30% of our members, but believe it or not, about 70% of our members actually kept their memberships active. Amazing. And supported our business during this time. And then it was really interesting. Once we opened back up, we got a lot of the people to return, but also we actually got a lot of new faces this year. It's really been interesting. A lot of people cooped up inside, nothing to do. So once we opened back up, we've actually seen a lot of new faces, and it's kind of helped us kind of get back to where we were at least.
Right.
So at least to be staying afloat this year, we're happy with, because it's been a crazy year, and there certainly has not been. There's been people that have been less fortunate than us, so we're just fortunate about that.
They say as winter is starting to come and it's starting to get cold, as we see it, the spike of COVID is going up again. What are you and the team at Legion doing just to keep people safe? Right. Are there certain things that you guys are doing from you're making sure that people train separately, you make sure that the people that train actually are limited to a certain amount of people they train with? What are certain guidelines that you are actually doing? Yeah,
so since we've been back open up, we've had non-contact thermometers checks a lot of the times when we've been having classes, anyone coming in. We've also been limiting our classes to, I think we're back up to 75% capacity, but we're still not at full capacity. Mm-hmm. We're also constantly reminding our members to take precautions, especially outside of the gym. I know for me personally, literally all I do is run my gym and go home. Right. And so for me, it's easy because this is all I do. And so I would say if I'm going to get exposed, it's going to be somebody from my gym because I'm not taking the risks outside. Now, I can't ask and monitor everyone's lives and follow them around every day to make sure they do that. But we just ask that our members are taking the proper precautions outside of the gym. And if they experience any symptoms at all, or if they come in contact with anybody that's tested positive, to please let us know. and thankfully our members have been super responsive and supportive with that.
Right.
We've had, I mean, if I have a member and they text me and they're like, my girlfriend's friends, parents, students, mom tested positive, it's hilarious actually how serious people are taking this in a good way.
Right.
Because we do need to take this very seriously, especially as somebody that runs this business.
Exactly.
But it's awesome to see there. Also, we if we do ever have somebody from our gym test positive, then we're gonna essentially close for the week or 2 weeks or whatever it needs to do, whatever we need to do to act in an abundance of caution and ensure the safety of our students.
I think that's awesome. You know, Logan, I think there's a lot of my listeners that don't know too much about jiu-jitsu or the history of jiu-jitsu. Can you give us your breakdown of the history of jiu-jitsu and how it was founded and what's the purpose?
Sure, yeah. So originally jiu-jitsu was founded, I would say, by Helio Gracie, who essentially kind of took judo and adapted it to a smaller, what would work for a smaller person. Judo is very similar to jiu-jitsu in the sense of a lot of times they wear the traditional kimono gi.
Sure.
They work on a lot of throws and ground techniques. So jiu-jitsu is essentially modified judo with a more focus on the ground techniques. They call it the nuwaza, just more focus on the ground techniques.
Okay.
So that was a really long time ago. It's really interesting. The Gracies, they started to develop a reputation in Brazil and started having the Gracie challenges that you can look up on YouTube to this day and watch.
Right.
And then they had what's called like the global awakening, where not Hickson Gracie, but Rorion Gracie, I believe it was, started the UFC, and he put his son in, Royce Gracie. And a lot of people know who Royce Gracie is because he's somebody who kind of popularized jiu-jitsu, made it a little more mainstream by bringing it into the UFC. Most people don't know that the first UFC was actually a tournament of all the different styles of martial arts to find out which martial arts is the best. And the jiu-jitsu guy, Royce Gracie, won. He actually won the first three. And it was just kind of like a really big proving moment for martial arts and specifically jiu-jitsu and the effectiveness of jiu-jitsu. So what's really great about jiu-jitsu, and especially for dealing specifically with kids and dealing with bullies, is that it's very non-violent. It focuses on neutralization and control.
Sure.
Not punching, kicking, a lot of that. It's mostly just grappling, right? So
Right.
For kids who's dealing with a bully, a lot of the times in schools there's no hitting rules, things like that. And our goal when we teach our kids is to truly be non-threatening, to truly be as harmless as possible, but to defend yourself if you have to, and to defend others if they need it as well.
Right.
But the best thing about jiu-jitsu is it's really like fighting fire with water. If somebody's trying to punch and kick at you and you try to punch and kick back, that's fire with fire. Jiu-jitsu is kind of the opposite of that. It takes that and kind of slows things down and just controls the situation. And you can control the if you need to hit, or if you can control it without having to hit, that's even better.
You know, we'll talk more about the bullying in schools, but a lot of listeners know that I've trained jiu-jitsu for a while, and I know that people get into jiu-jitsu or martial arts or whatever they're into, they get into it for different reasons. And I know that in regards to jiu-jitsu, a lot of people over the years that I've met have got into it because of they want to learn self-defense,
Right.
or they want to go ahead and have a good cardio exercise. But we both know how addictive jiu-jitsu can be. I mean, if you actually are in it for like a week or two, really, you want to learn more and more. And in regards to your academy at Legion, what is your main focus to your students? I mean, is it self-defense? Is it cardio? Is it competition? And the reason I'm asking is before I transferred from the Ohio Academy to here in Nashville, my perception of Legion and Checkmat was Buchecha. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I'm thinking, well, it's really a competitive base. But as I go to the classes and Jason Strickland, by the way, is an awesome instructor. He really doesn't, push, or I haven't seen anybody really push competition or competing, because
Right.
a lot of people a lot of people don't want to compete, but then there's a lot of people at the academies that like it. It just because it pushes themselves,
Right.
What is your main focus at Legion? What do you want to get across, I guess?
Well, I would definitely say that I don't have a main focus, because it's really important to understand as a head instructor, my number one focus is whatever my students' goals are. And you broke down a couple categories there. Typically, I'd say there's like 3 or 4 categories for what a student is looking for. It's either something to go to their mental discipline in life, whether it be to gain confidence or to gain humility or to gain focus, whatever that may be.
Right.
It may be competition, but I would say only about 25 to 30% of our members compete on an active basis.
Right.
So some people do it for competition, and that's jiu-jitsu, MMA, all that. And then some people do it, to get in shape, lose some weight, whatever. And then some people are really, I would say, to be honest, the most thing that people are looking for is just the camaraderie and just the teamwork and the brotherhood.
Gosh.
That comes along with the shared adversity of jiu-jitsu.
Man, that is so true. And I'll tell you this, not to interrupt you, going from the academy in Ohio and going to a big academy that has 3 locations, I think, like in Nashville, Murfreesboro, and Hendersonville.
Yep.
I've attended a lot of these pro fights, MMA fights. I go to a lot of some of these adult jiu-jitsu tournaments, and there's a lot of alpha males there, and they sort of strut their stuff. But when I came into your academy, honestly, I was really amazed on how people actually came up to me and not just say introduce, but they want to know about me. They want to know, it's just more of a personal level, and you got that brotherhood. So anyway, not to get sidetracked, last week was actually the first time that I've been at a jiu-jitsu tournament that was actually hosted by Naga. And I came there because I was really curious on how the kids excel in jiu-jitsu and how far they've come. And the turnout was awesome. But one of the things that I was really amazed with, you and Sean, I think it was you and Sean, and there was probably another coach.
It's probably our head professor Gabriel, and probably even Jared, one of our head assistant coaches.
Okay, but I was really paying attention to you and Sean, and you guys, honestly, I swear, and I'm not kidding, it's like you guys were running from one mat to another mat, and it was nonstop for I don't know how many, 2 or 3 hours. And then I saw Sean one time; he was actually coaching 2 mats at the same time. But one of the things that I was really looking for or looking to see is that, when kids lose, anybody takes a loss hard. But I think with kids, they take losses a lot harder for whatever reason. But one of the things that I saw with you and Sean is how you guys, you hugged him, you talked to him for a few minutes, and I don't know what was said, but I liked how you guys, you spent time with them, looking in their eyes and say, listen, it's all right. And I think that was one of the things that I really enjoyed about that. So that being said, in regards to competition, from the time that any of your students sign up to compete at a tournament, can you tell me step by step how you get them prepared? And I'm talking, on a mental basis, physically, strength conditioning, dieting, training. Is it, do you have people that really compete that take it seriously? And then, do you put them on a diet? Do you make sure that they go through, some stressful training, before they compete, I guess? Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, of course. So every student is different, and every athlete is different. And some need more help and encouragement and motivation and push than others. To where some athletes almost need to like rein them back and pull them in and be like, hey, you don't need to be competing every weekend. Right. Or like, hey, like settle down. You're going to overtrain and just go crazy. But essentially, especially for say like an adult, I am a certified personal trainer, and I know what I'm talking about in terms of nutrition and strength and conditioning, things like that. But it's not something that it's something that I recommend, but it's not something that I do for my athletes. We do have like a strength and conditioning coach here that does help a little bit more with that if people are interested, but it's not something that everybody takes up or looks into, because it's definitely going like the extra mile. But essentially, we expect the people that compete, especially on a regular basis, like we're going to hold them to a higher standard and keep them accountable even more. So like we have competition classes every Saturday that are really important if you're going to be competing, because it's going to be the best possible push for you. We've got all sorts of stuff, but also a big one, especially for kids, is private lessons. I can't stress enough the importance of private lessons. Either to build a game, to actually like build a game around what works best for you. And it's just like, if you have a goal to lose 20 pounds, then it's way better to work with a coach to help like put together a plan that works for you.
Sure.
Rather than just trying to just willy-nilly just go work out and try to do your best, to get together with a coach and to organize a game plan that like works based off of what is good for you and what you like doing is super important. And then especially for kids don't really understand concepts so easy. Like they mostly just understand like the techniques that they're learning because like they're just trying to follow the instructions of what their coach is saying.
Sure.
So to be able to get the one-on-one time for 30 minutes or an hour and explain a concept to a kid. So when you explain a concept, it's not just teaching them one technique. It's going to teach them a concept that could work for several techniques.
Right.
So to be able to sit down and explain concepts to kids, it goes such a long way for competition, especially like at a lower level when you're talking about kids and white belts and blue belts. It's not often about who knows the most. It's mostly about who has a structured game plan and who is ready to do a precise move. I always say that you don't need to know everything from every position, but you need to have at least one or two good things from every position that you're ready to go for right away.
Right. I have one more question in regards to competition, and this is probably more of a personal question.
Sure.
Why is it when athletes train outside of competition, or if it be it could be golf or it could be any other sport, why does it seem that they do better when they're practicing, and then they fall apart when they actually compete?
Right. Well, a lot of that is stress inoculation. So we try to replicate that the very best we can, especially in our competition classes. A lot of the times in my competition class, we'll have even 20 people there, and I'll have one match going on at a time, and everyone else is there just yelling and screaming just to try to make it like an actual competition match. But essentially you're changing, the environment has changed. Nothing else has changed but the environment. And sometimes it's easy to get caught up and focused on the environment being different. Mm-hmm. And so when you focus on that, you don't get to focus on your game plan and what you're trying to actually accomplish.
Right.
So a lot of that's just a mental thing. Some of the times that comes with time, and experience. And some people are naturally better than others. Right. But the biggest thing is, I would say that is essentially stress inoculation and essentially just a change in the environment. The best way I like to explain that is, you could walk on like a line on a floor for forever. It's not hard. But if that same line was on a 1,000-foot drop, it would become insanely more difficult. And nothing is changing except for your environment. So you got some people that are naturally good in those environments and they thrive in those environments. And then some people that have to learn over time how to handle that. Some people just aren't never going to be naturally good at that.
Right. I want to back up a little bit because we were talking a little bit about jiu-jitsu and kids. I think in regards to the kids, first of all, I think I'm more out of tune right now this year than I've ever been because I'm not in the schools, because they're limiting the amount of school assemblies that are taking place. So, I know that in March, that the schools, there was like 1 out of 4 kids that are bullied every month. It's becoming a huge problem, but you guys have a real strong kids program. I know in Hendersonville, because about a week ago, I decided to come to the old location where you guys were at. And one of the things that I noticed is that there wasn't just one person helping to teach or instruct the kids. There was, honestly, Logan, I think there was like 4 or 5 of them. And I think that is so good for the effectiveness of the kids learning, because you got an instructor right there teaching them the technique. But one of the things that I also was impressed with was that how I think the main instructor, was it his name Cody or?
Yeah, probably Cody, Coach Cody.
Okay. I enjoyed how it seems like he was going from one thing to another thing to another thing, and he just kept the kids, interactive. Why do you think? What do you think the main reason parents should encourage their kids to get involved in jiu-jitsu or any martial arts?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for those kind words, and it's something that we really try to have, especially for the younger kids, the 5 to 8 year olds. We think that hands-on instruction is really important. I try to have, for the little kids, I try to have about half as many coaches to students. So like if I have 10 5 to 8 year olds, it'd be ideal to have 5 coaches. Right. So I can have a coach with every group. Now that'd be ideal, and some days we don't have that, and some days we have more kids than that, or less coaches. But it's really important, that hands-on instruction, especially for the little kids, making sure you're right there to just help them and encourage them. But also, like you said with Cody, he's really good about being interactive and keeping it fun and keeping the kids into it, because it's really easy for kids to just get so off track and so lost and not even know what they're doing. And so it takes a special type of person and a special type of coach to be able to do that. Sure. But really, there's a lot of reasons why jiu-jitsu is such a great choice for kids. I would start with the self-defense aspect, and just know that if your kid is training jiu-jitsu for more than a year, it's more than likely that they'll never have an issue with somebody physically being able to beat them up. It's very unlikely. 6 months to a year of jiu-jitsu can truly change your life, in the sense of you never have to worry about somebody beating you up. And for somebody like me, that was a constant fear when I was a kid. And for me to empower myself at such a young age, like it totally took my life in a completely different direction. So to start with that, just the empowerment that comes from being able to just defend yourself and not have to go through life scared, is huge. But also, just like the adults, the teamwork and the camaraderie that comes with our kids team. Our kids are so close, and what's really awesome about the sport is it's a year-round sport, and that you don't age out. And these kids have been together for 4 or 5 years, where, you play a sport like baseball, and you'll probably play with the kid for a year. You move up to a new age group, you're on a different team, and you're constantly playing with different kids. Jiu-jitsu is something that's really cool, because you're in the same gym day in, day out. You're not going to age out. Like I said, these kids have been together for 4 or 5 years now, and it's really special to see the bonds and friendships that they've made.
Awesome. I think, it was last year when I was going into a lot of schools and talking with the kids. You'd be surprised on how many kids have low self-esteem. And I believe it. Yeah, and that's probably one of the downfalls, is one of the reasons why bullies pick on kids that have low self-esteem, because these are the kids that walk down the hallway with their head low. They're insecure about themselves. They don't think they can do anything well or anything good at all. And what can you say to kids that what can you say to kids that would help them encourage to pursue their dreams or to be good at something? Right.
So one of the reasons why I love competition for kids so much is because there really is nothing like the adrenaline and the anxiety that comes with a jiu-jitsu competition. I played baseball all the way through the college level, and I never once experienced any amount of anxiety or stress that I felt when I did my first competition in jiu-jitsu, and especially when I did my first MMA fight. It's just a totally different thing. And so for a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old to go to a tournament and to be so outright scared and frightened and not know how this is going to go, and I mean, even their parents see it, and to walk through that fire and to come out the other side unscathed and oftentimes victorious is such an empowering thing for kids at a young age. And what's really important is even with competitions, it's not about the medals. It's about the experiences. Even for me, it's about the experiences that come with it and the lessons that we learn with competition, and how we take these lessons with us throughout our whole life. So you take a kid that is experiencing this extreme amount of stress and anxiety, and he jumps into the deep end and he finds out he can swim. Mm-hmm. You translate that to anything that this kid's going to face in his life, whether it be with school or whether it be with a job one day or anything. It's not going to compare, because truly jiu-jitsu is just about the most stressful and hardest thing you can do.
Well, let me ask you this then, Logan. What's your definition of being successful in jiu-jitsu? And the reason why I'm asking is this: you know, first of all, being my age, since I started coming, I'm now the oldest one at the academy, and it's hard for me personally because I'm real competitive. It's hard for me to not be competitive, and my mind goes one level, my body goes the other, and I can't really. It's hard for me to judge if I'm doing well or if I'm being successful or if I'm excelling, because half the people that are there are 20, 30 years old, maybe some maybe you got a couple in their 50s. But how can you coach me in being successful in jiu-jitsu? I mean, how can I be successful in jiu-jitsu at my age?
Right. I think the biggest thing is, and jiu-jitsu teaches us this early, and then we oftentimes forget and get reminded and forget and get reminded, and that's life. But it's the reminder that it's you versus you. It's not about you or versus anybody else in the gym. Everyone in your own gym is your teammates and on your team, and only there to help you get better and help you improve. And there's that saying in jiu-jitsu, there's no losing, there's winning and learning. That's especially true when it comes to being in the gym. Right. Especially as our bodies get older, and we are, I mean, day by day, we're going to be less physically capable every day. And it's just about understanding that it's you versus you, and it's about your improvement, mentally, physically, spiritually, all that. Right. And that your teammates are just tools to help you get further ahead in your own path, in your own life.
Right. I think one of the things that I do, that I have to do, and everybody has their way of recouping after training. And it was funny because yesterday morning you guys have a class from like 6 to 7:15, I think, every morning at different locations. And so when I got in there was a few guys that were already on the mat, and they have this like it looks like a gun with a ball on the end that massages.
Oh yeah, the Theragun.
Yeah, and there was like 2 or 3 people that were using the balls. I'm thinking, what is that? And then Jason Jason Strickland, he said, go ahead and try this, and it was like he goes, it will change your life.
Yeah.
But getting off on a different tangent, one of the things that I do. I've been, I've always worked out, maybe 4 times a week, strength and conditioning, and I stretch every day with Paul, my son-in-law, and he is, and it's really, I think that's probably the best thing that I can do, because when you work out, it seems like it strengthens your joints when you stretch, because when you get to a certain age, your back wants to slump over, your legs are getting tighter, and you start walking funny. But these are different things that I have to do just to keep on training. And so I don't know what's your advice to people that that wants to have a longevity, or they want to train long into their lives. I mean, what's your recommendation?
First of all, just understanding that it is about longevity is like so important, because with jiu-jitsu, it's easy to get obsessed with it and want to just train nonstop every day, and you're either going to get mentally or physically burnt out that way. It's happened to me before. and I've seen it happen to countless people. It's especially sad when you see somebody that's really loves jiu-jitsu and just goes way too hard and either physically gets burnt out or mentally gets burnt out, and then they stop training. But it really is just understanding that it is all about longevity. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You know, like me personally, I want to be able to do jiu-jitsu when I'm 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, you know, and a lot of that comes with letting go of your ego and not going so hard in the gym and understanding it's okay to tap. It's okay to tap often.
Right. That's what I do.
What's that?
I said that's pretty much what I do. You guys, you know,
there's also other things, you know, outside of just training though, like the stretching before class, like the using the massage gun. There's a lot of good tools like that. I personally have taken up hot yoga, and I've started doing a lot of hot yoga classes, and that's added, I just feel like, so much help into my recovery and also into my strength and posture and things like that.
Nice.
So I would recommend like things like yoga, stretching. I used to really go hard in the gym and lift too much, and to be honest, I'm really happy that I don't lift weights anymore, because it's just been I felt a lot less pain now that I lift less weights.
Okay.
Personally,
I might need to consider that. Well, listen, Logan, before we wrap things up, there is what I do. I ask a series of what I call super questions, and there's like 3 or 4 of these, and then we'll go ahead and wrap things up if that's all right with you.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. What's one word that best describes you?
Passionate.
Okay. What is one of your biggest pet peeves? And this can deal with your academy, family or friends. It could be anything. What is one of your biggest pet peeves?
When people talk about it but don't be about it. When people say that they're going to do something but they don't. It's really hard sometimes when you're a person of your word. When people aren't the same back, it can be kind of difficult sometimes.
Right. Okay. Let me see. What natural gift would you most like to possess?
Patience. Okay. Patience.
Okay, and then
it's something that I've learned over time, and it's grown, but it was never natural in me. But it's a skill that I've developed, but I definitely wish it was more natural to me.
Nice. And then one last question. Tell me something true that almost nobody agrees with you on.
Oh, man. See, my friends would say that I'm about to dive into some sort of conspiracy theory, and I'm going to refrain from that. What's something that's true that most people would disagree with me on?
Yeah. It could be dealing with jiu-jitsu, leg lock game. It could be you're the best jiu-jitsu practitioner in Nashville. I mean, anything.
I would not say that I am, because there's so much talent. I would say that there's people that are probably more talented than me and better than me, but I really don't think there's many people that spend more time mentally and physically around jiu-jitsu and around MMA, and who is more passionate about it and who cares more about not only the sport but also impacting people, as many people as I can through the sport, than me. So I would probably say that. Okay,
since you're on the roll, I have to do one more question, and then we'll be done.
Sure. Let's go.
If heaven exists, of course we know, but what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
That you did your best to be a good person, and that you lived a genuine life, and that if you ever did wrong to others, that it was never intentional.
Okay. So
I do believe in my heart.
That's good. So this is seriously the last question. Okay. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Filmmaker. I'd like to make movies.
Really? Did you tell me that at lunch? Or I
don't know.
I didn't know that, man. What did you study that, or did you? What?
I used to. Yes. Yeah. Actually, before I started teaching jiu-jitsu, I was on track to do that. doing that, making movies, making short films. Art is something just in general that's always inspired me, and more than a jiu-jitsu practitioner, more than a martial artist, I'm just an artist. And whether that's art, film, photography, videography, jiu-jitsu, art is something that's very special to me, and that's something that means a lot to me in general. Nice. All forms of art.
Nice. Hey, Logan, do me a favor. Why don't you tell the listeners the best way to get more information about you and also the Academy, and if it's through Facebook, website, or anything?
Yeah. So please feel free to look us up on Facebook. We've got Facebook, Instagram, Legion Jiu Jitsu. We've got our 3 locations. So whether you're closer to me in Hendersonville or need to go out to East Nashville to train, or maybe even down in Murfreesboro, we've got 3 locations, all under the same membership. So one membership gets you access to all 3 locations. We've got our website, which is www.legionjj.com. If you want to check us out there, you're more than welcome to book your class on that website. And I'd be more than happy to have anyone who's listening to this come on in anytime. I'd give you a free week of training, free one-on-one introductory session with me. I'd love to just talk to you about jiu-jitsu and show you how it can truly change your life.
Awesome. Well, that's about all we have for today's show. But before we go, I want to thank again all the sponsors and their help in fighting against bullying in the public schools. So until next time, thanks for listening.
Thank you, David.